Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor, Wax in the City. Experience the best in class wax at Wax in the City. From flawless brows to Brazilians that wow, their hair removal experts are here to give you silky smooth skin that feels and looks absolutely amazing. All right, I'm here today with Summer Vasilis. She is the co-founder of Waxing the City. Summer, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you. Obviously, not only am I excited to have you here to talk about Waxing the City, but a lot of people know I just purchased a few franchises. So I am really excited to talk to one of the co-founders and continue to explore the brand a little bit more. So to get started, why don't we get you to just introduce yourself? Summer, tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll kind of get into the history of Waxing the City and how you got started.
Yeah. So, thanks for having me, Chris, and welcome to the Wax in the City family. We're super
Thank you.
excited to have you, and you are groundbreaking there in your territory in Ohio. So, very exciting opportunity for you and us. Let's see, Summer Vasilis, and I have been in the beauty industry for almost 30 years, which is crazy to think that it's been that long. I started just out of, well, actually, I started working in a salon in high school and found that I had a passion for the beauty industry, and I went to school to become an esthetician. I became a licensed esthetician back in 98 or 99, somewhere around then. And that's where I met one of my other co founders, Alex. And we, together with two other women, one is my mother, started Wax in the City back in 2003. So it's a high level, quick intro about me. I live in Colorado. I'm married, four kids, ages 25 to 7. So never a dull moment in my life.
Wow. Well, I've only got two, right? Mine are 8 and 11. That's way too much for me. So, more power to you there. So you started it with your mother and Alex and one other partner. So you guys started in Denver, is that right?
We started in Denver. Yep, downtown Denver. It was a little salon that was in a professional office building, second floor interior space. We had no signage, and yeah, that's where we began from very humble beginnings.
Awesome. So you guys, you got started, and then now you are involved with Purpose Brands, and Purpose Brands is for anybody out there who's thinking brands, Orange Theory, Anytime Fitness, obviously Waxing the City. They've got several very large brands. How did you get involved with Purpose Brands, and then we'll kind of talk about how this grew from there.
Yeah, well, I feel like I kind of want to start at the beginning of the story prior to Purpose Brands. But, when we started, I said we started in this little small space. We never thought that we'd have an employee. But we hired our first client who was our first team member who was a client. She loved being a client and she loved waxing and asked if we were hiring. And at the time, again, we just thought it was going to be Alex and I waxing, and that was just going to be it. And so we took a chance. We're like, okay, well, yeah, we'll give Sherry, was her name, a chance. And she became our first serologist. And that's when things really started to kind of take off. As we grew, we brought on more technicians. We started opening more sites and realizing that we had something that was truly special. We had a business with great margins. We had a great client experience. We had a career focused culture for all of our technicians. And so we're like, gosh, we have something really special here. And so that's when we started to exploring franchising. And it wasn't something that we took lightly. It was quite a journey when we decided we wanted to franchise and looking at some different partnerships. And we really wanted to find a partner that aligned with our core values. And when we met Chuck and Dave, they were the founders of Anytime Fitness, now known as Purpose Brands, as they have a suite of brands underneath that umbrella. We just knew it was going to be a perfect match. They understood our business model, but also our mission to creating these impactful experiences for all of our stakeholders, for our clients, our employees, and franchisees. So, that was something that was really important to us. So thinking more about, Purpose Brands, again, it was just this alignment of core values. And I think it's a unique partnership today in the fact that three of us co-founders of Wax in the City are still here and actively involved in the brand because our partnership came to fruition in 2012. So we're at 12 and a half years of this partnership now.
That's outstanding. So 12 and a half years of the partnership, and you grew from just your shop, or you guys end up having a few shops there in Denver, right?
Yeah, we had 5 locations, 4 in Colorado and 1 in Dallas, Texas, when we partnered with them. And Dallas kind of seems like a reach, like, why would you go to Dallas? But we knew we had a successful model within Colorado, but we wanted to test the model and see if we could make it go in an unknown market where we didn't have a name for ourselves, and what type of success could we achieve there. And so within 15 months, we were voted best Brazilian wax in Dallas. We were the very first exclusive waxing studio in Dallas, Texas. And Dallas is like the beauty mecca, right? It's like, there's a lot of competition there. Even though we were the first waxing, like exclusive waxing studio, there was still competition with other, day spas and independents. And so it was a huge win for us.
That's outstanding. So today, and I looked this up a few weeks ago, there's just under 170 Wax in the City studios open, and the growth has been exponential, which I think says a lot for the brand that you've built, the partnerships that you've made with purpose brands. What do you think are some of the keys that are making Wax in the City so successful when there are a number of competitors out there in the market space?
Yeah, I go back to just staying true to our core values. We were built on, our why was really about creating this amazing client experience and also a great experience for service providers. And so that is something that still rings true today. And so I think it's holding true to that. When I look at some measurements of those success, we have our OSAT score, which is consistently in the 90s. So today it's at 94%. And that's with that many locations, to have a
Wow.
brand level OSAT score of 94% is huge, right? And then also we measure our retention and attrition with our technicians as well. And we continue to grow year over year with our retention of our serologists, and just providing those careers for them and that longevity, which helps the business be successful. If we're taking care of our people, they're taking care of the clients. So
Absolutely. So you've talked about the serologist a few times now, the esthetician. So what are some of the things that Waxing the City does to keep them engaged? I mean, hospitality industry turnover is continuing to rise. What are you doing to hold on to some of these people here at Waxing the City?
I think it's about encouraging our franchisees to have excellent cultures and investing in their team members. So, we hire inexperienced or experienced. We're looking for people that are passionate about waxing and about taking care of clients. We say hire character, train skill, and we have a robust training and onboarding program. And then just encouraging those career paths. I think that's really important. Something that was really important to Alex and I when we started Wax in the City is to break the stigma in the beauty industry and to be able to provide careers for the service providers. And so it's just, finding franchise owners that have those same values as well, and that they want to invest in the people part of their business.
I think that's outstanding, and that retention piece, the training piece is huge. Now, you and I have talked a few times, and I know that training is something you are passionate about. It's part of your core values. What kind of things excite you about training, and how have you continued to drive training in Waxing the City?
So up until really this year, we've really focused in on the serologist training, the technical training, and training them on how to provide a great experience as well. And now we're pivoting to still having that same core of training, but really investing into more leadership training for the leaders of the business. So for our franchisees and their studio teams of their leadership, so for their managers, and also continuing to develop the leadership skills in the serologists as well. And so it's something I'm really, really excited about. I've been, rooting for this type of leadership training in our brand for quite a few years, and we're here. So it's just that continued investment, I think, in the people piece is really key. And growth is a core value of mine, and it's something that I invest in deeply with myself. And so I just like to be able to share that with others.
Well, I think that's a good kind of segue here, because growth is something that everybody wants to be a part of, right? Like, everybody is interested in growing their career. Nobody wants to be stagnant, growing as a person. With Waxing the City, the model is fairly flat. I mean, you're a serologist, or you're a leader, or you're an owner. What does growth look like for, uh, even if they want to stay a serologist, if they want to change, roles a little bit? What does that look like in Wax in the City?
I think it's unique to all of the owners, all of the franchisees and what they're building in there with their own business structure. And so, I think the great opportunity is, if you have a single unit operator that's growing to more locations, there's going to be growth, there's going to be opportunities with that growth. But also looking at, there's a lot of things that need to happen in a business, right? And so I think, dialing in with each individual and what's important to them, and where can you delegate and get rid of some things that are on your plate as an owner or a manager and delegate out. So, for instance, thinking back to our studios, that when we had them creating opportunities, for a serologist to become a trainer. So they're teaching others the waxing skills, somebody that gets out in the community. So I'm trying to remember the title of a career opportunity, but it was just somebody that would manage all of the volunteer events. So, we're big into supporting the communities that support us. And so when we had our locations, with 5 locations, we probably did a community event every month to every other month. And so that takes a lot of organization of getting volunteers of the team to go out there and volunteer at these events, getting the booth set up, getting them all organized, all of those things. So that was a growth opportunity. Again, getting into management or looking at marketing and social media. And so I think that the opportunities are endless, and it really depends on the size of the business and what there is.
Okay. So if I'm a serologist and I am happy, I'm excited about being a serologist. I don't want to be a manager. I'm an individual contributor, because a lot of them are, right? What kind of things can I do in my role as a serologist to kind of grow where you're planted, right? Grow in place
Yeah.
and grow my income, get some education. How is Wax in the City making that happen?
So we have our core services of waxing. In the last 6 years, have started expanding into more innovative services outside of waxing, things that complement waxing. There's opportunities to grow your skills in the technical services. We do lash lift, brow lamination, some different types of skin treatments. So there's areas for growth in just that creative technical area. But then we train our franchise leaders and managers to really, again, do that investment in the individual. So the one-on-one coaching, and really giving our serologists those business skills as well. Like, how do I grow my business? Dialing into what's important to them. I heard some serologists say, like, I want to be the Brazilian waxing queen of, whatever city that they're in. It's like, well, let's help make that happen if that's what you want, And so sometimes they just laser in on and wanting to just really get good at one area. Even though they're doing all of the services, they want to be known for something specifically within their community.
That's great, and I think anybody who's listening to this is now getting kind of the wheels turning, because there's a lot of careers out there in the hospitality industry where people look to grow in place, right? There's not always that upward
Yeah.
mobility that makes it very obvious, how you can grow. It's how can you grow in place, and so I think that's a couple of great keys there.
Yeah, I think the
Um,
other thing too, oh, sorry, is
no,
just
go ahead.
looking at like where we're at too, of like, sometimes, I mean, you're right. Some people just want to come in and they just want to wax and go home. And I think that's excellent, right? That's great. But there's also, being able to have that work-life balance too, and being able to look at their schedule, because they are, most of our serologists are female, right? And they're a younger female that are starting families, they've got kids. And so having that balance of being able to enjoy their life outside of work while having this career that supports that, I think is important too.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think that work-life balance, everybody's always interested in it. Everybody talks about it, but I think Wax in the City has gone that extra mile to actually make it happen within the studios. And obviously it's coming from, the founder here. So it's something people can definitely buy into and believe in.
Yeah, there's
Um,
flexible scheduling, so I think it's a beauty industry, right? We're kind of in that retail space where weekends and evenings are going to be busy, but those technicians that build this amazing clientele, that they can work more of a schedule that's a little bit more, work week, work mornings with that clientele that follows to support that schedule too. So
And once you dial into your clientele, you know when they're going to be there. You can help plan your schedule and get them to where you need them to be, and really build that book that makes it that much more valuable to you, because now not only do you know your income, but you know your schedule, and it really makes a huge difference.
And it's teaching those behaviors to our serologists, right? And how
Right.
to build the business that way for themselves.
Absolutely. One of the things that you touched on a little bit ago was community, right? Trying to get involved in the community. What does Waxing the City look like in the local communities they're in?
So I think it's not just about providing a service, but an experience that helps people make people feel confident and cared for. I think it's about, again, contributing to the economy and creating these jobs and supporting other local businesses through partnerships and collaborations. Again, one of our core values was really supporting those communities that support us. And so it's about encouraging all of our franchisees, our owners, to be intentional about giving back to the communities, whether it's through charity partnerships or sponsoring local events. It's about being that positive force and building these strong, lasting relationships in the communities that they serve.
And I think that's great. And as a franchisee, I can tell you that that has been a huge focus of mine. Is heard it from you when you and I talked originally. I've heard it from leaders in the organization as well, that getting involved in your community is an absolute must. And then to also tie that into what you said with the serologist, with we want them to be part of the community as well. It's not just on the leadership of the organization. We want everybody involved, because Waxing the City is part of the communities that they're in. I think that's absolutely awesome.
Yeah. One of the things that we did in our studios is we set up, we had, that's what I'm looking for. Well, we required all of our technicians to volunteer for at least one event per year. But oftentimes in the interview process, I would hear technicians ask, like, "Well, how busy am I going to be?" Right? And I would turn that around and say, like, these are all the things that we're doing to market Waxing the City. And one of that is, we support our communities and we have events about every month. We require everybody to come to one event, but how busy you're going to be is how many events will you go to? We say the minimum is one, but if you come to every one of them and you're out there in the local communities meeting people, talking about waxing, passing out your card, and just making those connections. Waxing is a very personal thing, right? I've been at this now for over 20 years, and waxing today is much more well known than it was back in the early 2000s. And so there was a lot of unknowns about waxing and fear. And so just being able to meet people and have a face and a smile and introduce yourself and answer any questions that they have really makes a huge impact of, customers or clients feeling comfortable and wanting to come in to get waxed. So anyways, the other thing too would be, just really working with our serologists and what's important to them. Are there certain charities that they're passionate about? It's like, well, let's get involved. Let's do this. And so it's really, again, that partnership with all the people that are working within the business too.
I think that's great. If it's getting everybody involved is huge, and I think everybody's gonna have a lot more passion surrounding it if they see themselves in what it is that they're working towards. So that's absolutely wonderful, and I think it's a great way to approach it.
Yeah.
One of the things that you talked about a little bit earlier was the franchisees, right? So, and I think I've asked you this before, but what do you see as being some of the key success factors for franchisees in this organization? Because it's a rapidly growing organization, and obviously you're passionate about the reputation and how everything goes. So what are some of those keys to some of the best franchisees you see?
I think it's having that passion for the business. So Wax in the City is more than just about running a business. It's about being part of something meaningful. And so, we encourage our franchisees to be the leaders in their business, in their communities. Wax in the City as being part of a franchise, we're providing that framework, but it's really our franchisees kind of bringing that to life through their unique vision and their dedication. So again, it's follow the model, right? You've been given
Right.
this chocolate chip cookie recipe and the best chocolate chips. Until you know it and you're living it, you might have a little different taste and something that you want to change, from semi-sweet chocolate to dark chocolate, but keep the recipe the same, right? Like follow the framework. But really it's about, again, we've talked a lot about community, getting involved in the community. It's a people business. So really, hiring great technicians and helping to motivate and mentor them to be better in their roles, and just providing that leadership, that culture for for the team to thrive. I think that's really key.
Absolutely. And so I think that if I wrap this out to other organizations, right, that engagement, I've worked for franchises most of my career, working through Marriott and a couple of other companies. And, it was always the Marriott way, right? And that's why you can get the same service, the same experience all over the world, because they hold those standards so well. And when I look at you, it's seeing that spread all across the country, and you're still extremely involved in everything that happens in the organization. And so I think that consistency, we're seeing that play out throughout the stores all around the country.
Yeah. There's a great book called The Wealthy Franchisee by Scott Greenberg. I don't know if you're familiar with him or that book. He spoke at one of our annual conferences a few years ago, but I recommend that book to any franchisee. And, it's really about kind of that mindset. It's about, I think, back to your question, what makes a successful franchisee is also the partnership between a franchisor and a franchisee as well. And, being on the franchisor side, this is a collaborative relationship, and it's important for us to have communication, alignment, and trust, all of those things. But, we're in this together. And so it's being able to have that great working relationship, I think, is also the key to some franchisees' success as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that anybody who's out there and thinking, well, this is only a small franchise conversation right now. The reality is it's not. I mean, running a franchise is just like running any other business. And I've read The Wealthy Franchisee. It's an outstanding book. And I think if you're looking for a way to increase your growth mindset and really spark growth in your business, no matter what your business is, there's some amazing insights in there that can give you more of an entrepreneurial approach to how you approach your business. So that's a great recommendation. It's a
Yeah.
great book. So when I look at Waxing the City, one of the things that amazed me when you said it earlier was, and we just kind of breezed by it, 94% overall satisfaction rating. That is, I worked in an organization where I remember I hit that number, a few times during a year, and I felt like King Kong, right? Like I felt like I could, rule the world, right? How is Waxing the City turning a 94% overall satisfaction in such a personal business, right? I mean, like it's a very intimate business. What kind of things are happening behind the scenes to make that happen?
It's an excellent question, Chris. And I am just gonna, from my perspective and what I think, right? There's not a lot of science behind this, but again, I think it's that first and foremost, we are intentional about the franchisees that we bring into Wax in the City, and that leadership is so key, right? Finding, again, going back to that, the core value alignment. So finding the right partners to bring Wax in the City to their communities is first and foremost important. And then, we talk a lot about just hiring the right people. It's, hiring technicians that are passionate about caring for clients. That is first and foremost the most important. I can teach anybody how to wax, but I can't teach somebody to really care about people, right? And so when I think about what Wax in the City offers, again, we wanted to create the best client experience in waxing, and that goes back to our why. And so, how Alex and I have structured that whole client experience and really making sure that they are getting the best experience. Because like you said, it is a very personal service. It's the little things, right? And in how we provide it. One of the things that we do is stepping out of the room to let our clients undress, give them a moment of, keeping their dignity while they're getting undressed, and, they're not undressing in front of a stranger. I know that seems such a small thing, but it does impact how a client feels when they're there for a service. We're not just waxing, again, it's providing that experience. And so our service times go into that as well. And so we want to create space for our serologists to be able to connect on a personal level with with their clients and build these relationships. It's, I don't wax anymore, but, having clients for 10, 12 plus years, the same person that you're seeing every single month, you develop these great relationships with them, And so, again, we want to like have an efficient service, but it's not about speed. We want to have quality, right? That quality is really important, and being able to, again, have that connection with our clients so they don't feel like they're racing in and out and they're just a number. So I think that plays into it. Alex and I, we worked with one of the top wax chemists in the world and formulating two of the very best waxes and so being able to provide that comfort of, having quality products is important. So there's a lot that goes into it, but it's empowering our service providers to be able to deliver on that experience, and then the leadership team to just work on creating that environment for our service providers to provide that. So again, I don't know about the science, but there's a lot of little details in there, and it's consistent that it's in those 90 in the high 90s. So
Yeah, I think that anybody who just listened to a lot of those keys is sitting there checking off in their head. Absolutely have to do that. Absolutely have to do that, And I think that, on my side, going through that and trying to maintain that high level of client satisfaction, it was all of those elements, right? It was, everything from hiring the right person, having the best products, having the patience and attention to really every detail of the experience. Um, and then just wrapping it all up with a personalization that really just makes a difference for the clients and makes them want to come back. So I think you nailed all of that. And I think anybody listening out here is translating that into their specific business and thinking, I could probably do a little bit better at that, or I could do a little bit more of this to make it huge. So thank you for that. That was
yeah,
great.
yeah.
So, as we kind of wrap things up here, one of the things I always like to do at the end, ask a few questions, and those questions are really seated in trying to give, growth, one of your focuses to anybody out there listening. So for you, you've already mentioned a book, but what are the things that you do personally to really ignite your growth?
I am a ferocious reader. So I get up in the morning and I read at night. Like that's my thing. And so I think it's just that kind of, business books, personal and professional development are my favorites. And so I have always got a couple of books going at any time. So just that commitment, I think, is really important. I just signed up for a leadership course through Geese College, and so just continuing to invest in my own leadership skills is important. And so I don't know. It's investment in the mind is super important, but then I think it's also taking care of yourself, and it's also another really important thing that I do to invest in myself and being able to then translate that to giving to others, right?
I think that's great. So you mentioned The Wealthy Franchisee. Are there any other books that when you think of like go-to books for you that come into mind?
So yes, the another one that I just started rereading because it's been years since I've read it is The E-Myth, which is a great book. Why most small businesses fail and what to do about it, or something subtitle like that. And so it's just, again, really interesting looking at entrepreneurs and how they approach their business. And I think as a leader, again, we can get bogged down with certain parts of our business, and it's important that we kind of pull ourselves back and focus on being that entrepreneur and working on our business. And it's about lots of systems and structure. So I think that's a great book. Another book that I love, again, I'm giving all business books here, is Fundamentals by, I think it's Jim Sullivan is his name. He has a couple of books, but he's more from the restaurant franchise arena. He has another book, Multi-Unit Leadership. And so another great couple of books there. So
Yeah, absolutely. So that's great few books. I'll make sure we include those in the show notes. So anybody else out there is interested can pick those up. Last two questions, just advice, right? So what is the best piece of advice you feel like you've been given?
That would have been from my mother when I was a lost soul in high school. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life. And she was just like, Summer, find something you love to do and you'll be successful at it. And I know it's so simple, but it's really about how I look at that today is finding your why and your purpose, right? And just living that. And so, I got into this business, never in a million years would I imagine where I am today, but I believe it's like living to that core of like, I'm passionate about skincare, right? Like, okay, this is what I want to do. And I went all in. And then that kind of went to waxing. I'm like, I'm really passionate about waxing. And then it was like, I want to open a business. And so just continuing to follow that passion and that love. And I think it's what's helped fulfill me through 30 years in this industry and still being here today. I'm passionate about, people and helping them grow. And again, and so that's where I lean in and find that love is helping others be successful and helping them grow today. So
That's great advice. Great advice. I think a lot of people here, find your passion and they think of something and they don't really ever let it evolve, right? I like this area, but they don't ever take it to a little bit more specifics or even give it the freedom to take a hard right turn into something completely different, a hard left turn into something completely different. So, I think that's great to hear how, you started with a passion, you started with an idea. And really it's the American dream, right? I mean, you started with an idea at a shop with a friend, and all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden,
you're
years
right.
later now,
Yeah.
30 years later, you have built this into, an impressive franchise that, is, I think I saw a LinkedIn post the other day, like, 200% growth year over year in new franchise sales. So it's clearly something people want to be a part of. So riding that passion to that success is absolutely awesome. So
Yeah.
congratulations there.
Thank you. I think too, it's don't overthink that. I think some people are like, I've got to find the thing, and it's like, just follow the path, follow the trail, and it's going to lead you there. You don't know what it's going to look like, and there's going to be bumps, and you're going to make mistakes, and there's going to be challenges, and you've got to just find your way through that. There's no easy path, but if you love it and you're passionate about it, you give more of yourself to it. And so I think that's that thing that pushes you towards the success.
That's great. Great follow up. Last question. If you could go back in time and give yourself a piece of advice, what would that be?
Just trust the process and enjoy the journey. Just, yeah, I mean, that's it. It's
Yep. You don't have to elaborate on that too much. That is absolutely right. And, I think you can see where you did that and now where you are. So, thank you, Summer, very much for spending time with us today. This has been a great conversation. I think a lot of things for people to take away from this. Uh, if people want to reach out to you or follow you, where are they doing that at?
Well, let's see. I've got my Instagram account, which is Ms. Summer Vasilis, and you know,
I think it's a great place.
good.
I know I follow it. And then if people want to learn more about Waxing the City, where are they going?
You can go to waxingthecity.com. So, yeah, on our website there, if you're interested in franchising, there's a franchising tab. If you're interested in a career, you can go to the careers tab. If you're interested in being a client, you can find all your information that you need there.
Awesome. Well, Summer, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate this. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to the Hospitality Leaders Podcast. Thank you again to our sponsor, Waxing the City. And please make sure you like and subscribe.